and the tremendous challenge that your company is facing, if we're also seeing that in other parts of the world. Niklas works with as a TV strategist here at Ericsson, and especially looking at consumer trends from around the world on TV consumption. So I'll leave the floor to you, Niklas, and then afterwards we're going to bring Eva back and open up for questions.
Okay, thank you. I hope you hear me fine. Can anyone hear me? Perfect. So today we're going to take a deep dive into consumer habits. And if you have any questions, please address me after the presentation and we can go through them more in depth. But we only have a sort of time to scan the views. So we'll actually go to this picture. Before we deep dive into the 2014 TV and media trend consumer study, I also want to take the moment just to highlight Ericsson's TV Megavision 2020, just to highlight 6 of the most important messages in there. It's our vision of what will the industry look like in 2020. And of course, you might have heard of our vision that there will be 50 billion connected devices in the world by that time. And by that time, 15 billion of those will be video enabled. So of course, that will impact the network hugely. We'll also see when it comes to the emerging market that they will much more than the developed market rely on mobility, because you don't have the fixed infrastructure in the same ways in those markets. So of course, mobile will, for those markets, become the first screen instead of perhaps the second screen or the complementary screen. This is changing. We're seeing new entrants that's also bringing new investments into the media space. All of a sudden, we're not only discussing the traditional media industry and their investments in the industry, but also new ones that didn't connect this type of market before. That will change. From a consumer point of view, I more or less heard all persons say here, personalization. And of course, personalization can be everything from personalizing your viewing, to personalizing your adverts, to personalizing business models, to make the TV and the video fit the viewers and not the other way around. And that will rely heavily on big data and personal information, which is sort of a dodgy area, but we have to navigate the right way in that. Part of the Megavision also predicts that by 2020, the split in the number of hours watching TV and video will be 50-50 between on-demand viewing and linear scheduled viewing. We're not quite there yet. Also by 2020, we'll see that the total value of the media industry, TV and video industry, will be $750 billion. And now it's around 530, so it will increase rapidly. But let's deep dive into the consumer knowledge, into the 2014 consumer study. The study that we're going to talk about today, we carried out in 3 different phases. The first phase is me and one of my colleagues went home to consumers in 3 different countries, in Sweden, in UK, and in US. Sat in the sofa, drank their tea, coffee, or Coca-Cola, depending on the country, and just talked, how do you consume TV and video across all different platforms? What are the drivers? What are the barriers? How would you like it to be, more or less? But that gives us the in-depth knowledge. The next phase was an online quantitative phase we carried out in 23 different markets this year. It's the largest of those studies so far. It's the 5th of its kind. And that's representative of around 620 million consumers in all those 23 different markets. The last phase was talking to experts, everything from content producers to people publishing adverts, to YouTube, to device manufacturers, to get their view of the future in the media landscape. And just to highlight that this isn't some super early adopter sample, the only 2 requirements to participate in this study was you should have some kind of broadband access at home, and you should watch some kind of TV and video, including YouTube, Netflix, or regular TV, at least weekly. So I guess most of you would be able to participate in this study. So let's dive into the results. The first trend is about how you view across different screens and across different platforms. What this graph is showing is the average amount of hours spent watching on different screens. You can't add everything up together because the base for, if we go to the top, the average amount of hours watching on the big screen at home, that is for those who have a big screen at home, so it's not for everyone, based those who have each device. The main differences when it comes to tracking 2012 to how it's changed 2014 is the decrease of the desktop computer. Less and less people are watching using this device. We can see that the traditional big screen as well as the laptop are more or less stable, no change there. The major increase is when it comes to the mobile devices. And looking at this tells us a pretty interesting story. Can you see where the increase is? It's actually inside the house. The green part of the chart is average amount of hours watching inside the house. The orange part of the graph is average amount of hours watching outside the house. Well, aren't we saying that everything is going more and more mobile? Well, there's a lot of barriers. We'll come back to those. But actually, the main increase is still inside the house. Interesting thing is as well, if we look at a country like South Korea, more or less all devices are decreasing, apart from the mobile phone. We'll come back to why that is happening as well. Now we're going to look at one of the consumer videos from an interview that we've been doing in the fieldwork.
Pre-Sky, we watched whatever we could watch together because we didn't have any choices at all. Then we got Sky, and there was more choice, but I could actually now record what I wanted to watch, and I didn't have to sit with my husband and watch what he had chosen to watch. I could actually go into another room and select exactly what I wanted. I could go on my, if he's watching the television and the Sky, I can actually go to my bedroom and go to my iPad and choose whatever I want to watch.
So one of the effects of the mobile devices is personalizing viewing. This lady I talked to in the US, she said her husband usually, I wouldn't use the word forces her to watch World War II documentaries, but he was in charge of the remote control. And they argued a bit, but then they both ended up in the sofa and watched World War II documentaries. Not her primary choice. But that was their social way of viewing. That is shifting because all of a sudden she can, leave the room or actually stay in the sofa with him but watch something else on her iPad, or go to the bedroom while he's sleeping or something like that and watch something else. So the mobile devices helps consumers to personalize the viewing. Also one of the reasons why we're seeing a huge increase inside the home when it comes to mobile viewing as well. So from the traditional, everyone is sitting in the same sofa, watching the same thing. When we visit households today, we can see still families gathered in the sofa, but one is watching the iPad, another one is playing games on the mobile phone, the third person might watch the big screen. So of course, that is also dividing up how you watch things socially. But also through channels like Twitter, you socialize with an online crowd, perhaps in more than in your home. As the quote from Hector, 33 here says, "If you watch us at 11:30 at night in bed, we're both on our phone. I'll be watching one thing, she'll be watching another thing." Of course, why compromise if you can watch what you really want instead of making this compromise? Another trend, I thought all of you heard about the binge viewing trend when we demoed the TV media area. I'd also like to address the place shifting trend. And what that is that consumers are starting to chunk up longer pieces of content between different devices. When we discussed mobile viewing 5 or 6 years ago, it was mainly focused to very, very short clips, like YouTube, etc. What we can see now is they're using services like Netflix and taking 45 or 1 minute, hour-long clips, but they divide them themselves. So you might start watching 5 minutes during the morning, carry on 20 minutes while commuting to work, 10 minutes more on another device while a break, and finish the last 20 minutes on the big screen at home. So you place shift throughout the day. And already 36% of the sample say that they're doing this kind of behavior on a weekly basis. That is somewhat lower. Only 20% are doing this in Sweden. So of course, again, really highlighting the importance of providing the content to all the different screens in a really user-friendly way. So we talked about this explosion on mobile viewing. What this graph is showing, it's not when we're asking consumers. This is based on an app that is installed on consumer smartphones. That's monitoring everything they're doing, and we're not doing this in a sneaky way. We ask for permission so we don't get sued. So they agreed for us to monitoring their network traffic, what kind of apps they use. So what we did then is look at all the different consumers that watch some kind of TV and video on smartphones. And then we wanted to understand, okay, what portion is viewed over Wi-Fi and what portion is viewed over cellular networks. And here comes the interesting part. If we look at light video users, those who watch less than 1 hour a week, this is US data, we can see it's around a 50-50% split. As consumers start watching more and more video on the mobile platforms, we can see the proportion increase on the Wi-Fi. And why is that? Any ideas?
Cost.
Sorry?
Cost.
Precisely. And we also ask consumers, have quantitative data, what are the things limiting your mobile video consumption? The top two alternatives, around 50% agree that cost, both in terms of data cost and content cost, is limiting the way I watch content on my mobile, on my tablet, etc. So the way business models are designed today is not in the line of how consumers want to consume TV and video content. So then you find coping strategies or limit the way you're watching it. So this is becoming more and more important. We'll also look at the next clip, a video clip from a consumer we interviewed as well.
So yeah, when I'm going shopping for a TV, I'm not looking to buy a TV, I'm just looking for a really gigantic monitor. I don't want the tuner function is an absolute waste. That's all it really is. It's just a monitor for delivery.
So I think that sums it up pretty good, actually. The way we watch TV is changing. All those new devices, all those new services, the consumers are getting used to being able to access what they want to watch, when they want to watch it, on which screen they want to watch it. All other kind of restrictions are not acceptable anymore. And as this person said, you know, I'm just looking for another screen, a big screen. That's the only difference between a regular TV and another screen. It's bigger. It's still a screen. So the mindset is shifted. What this figure is showing is the number of households who have at least one TV in their home which can access internet content on it. So this could be smart TVs, it could be that you've connected your TV to an Xbox, being able to access Netflix through that. More than almost 60% are able to do this, at least on one big TV screen in their household. So of course, this is changing the way consumers watch TV and video content. And this graph more or less shows the major changes. What this shows is how viewing behaviors are shifting. Looking back in 2011, focusing on the green part of the chart, shows that back then, 83% of the consumers were watching linear, scheduled broadcast TV on a more than weekly basis, saying 2 times a week or more often. That has decreased somewhat down to 77%. And when I say linear TV is decreasing, I would argue that live TV and event TV is more important than ever. But the non-live TV is shifting to other platforms. And that's why we're seeing the increase in streamed video, YouTube, short clips, Netflix, TV series, play services, etc. That is increasing from 61% doing it on a more than weekly basis back in 2011, now up to 75% in 2014. The other major changes is regarding on-demand. The old way of sort of managing your on-demand contents was recording things, the blue part of the chart. 47% were watching recorded things on a weekly basis back in 2011, dropped dramatically down to 28% in 2014. The same goes for physical media, from 31% down to 25% doing it more than a weekly basis. And the major reason is this isn't convenient. It's not that user-friendly, because if I stream something, I don't have to plan ahead. Also, if I record something, I can only access it on the recording device and the screens that's connected to that recording device, if it's not a cloud-based recorder or something like that. So of course, out of convenience and out of usability, we see that consumers are shifting their behavior from recording to streaming as well. And of course, this kind of shifting behaviors also creates other business models and other consumption habits. What this graph is showing is cord cutting and cord shaving habits of consumers, a challenge for the industry. When I say cord cutter and cord shaver, a cord cutter is someone who have had a managed TV package, but then by some reason decided, I don't need it anymore. I'll eliminate my traditional TV provider. I don't want to pay for that anymore. Perhaps they only use OTT services or don't watch TV at all. They eliminate the number of dollars they pay for TV to zero. A cord shaver might be someone who went from a big package to a cheaper package. That's a cord shaver. And in 2012, it didn't look like a big issue, right? 7% reduced the amount of money paid for managed TV. Another 7% eliminated it. But on the other hand, 21% increased it. That was good. Now in 2014, we had a completely different picture. 12% have reduced their package given the last year. Another 15% have eliminated it. Only 13% have increased this. This differs a lot between the different markets, but those are the global results. And this is also down to personalization and the way consumers are getting used to accessing their content and paying for content through online services. I want to decide what I want to pay for. I want to be able to pick and mix, not get this fixed bundle, preset bundle. And I think this quote sums it up pretty good. Laura, 33, from the US. We're spending so much money on just Comcast channels, and most of them you don't watch. Should we get a Roku, an online internet box? If my husband wasn't so obsessed with golf, it would be a no-brainer. Literally pay $200 a month for golf, because they can't only pay for golf and get rid of the other channels. And of course, this is causing huge frustration, and that is sort of the reasons why this is happening in the markets. Also, each year we ask the consumers to understand how should we provide better services. You saw the demo back there. How should we design our things? How should we end up with our strategy? We also ask consumers, apart from the qualitative findings also, what are the most important features when it comes to how you want to watch TV and video content? Of course, content is king, but besides from that, we can see HD quality being the most important one. 61% say that on a scale from 1 to 7, it's 6 or 7 importance for them for how they want to watch TV and video content. This is more important in markets like US, where you're used to high quality, you don't want to go back. The other things like a la carte TV and video content, that's precisely what I was talking about, being able to personalize, pick and mix your own channels and pay for the things you want to watch. But then we see on the second place, and especially if we're talking about the Swedish market, in Sweden it's the most important factor, free from ads and commercials. Consumers don't want to watch ads, they don't want to watch commercials. But on the other hand, they're aware that it helps fund their viewing habits, so they watch it as a sort of necessary evil. So does this mean that it's no future in commercials? No, I wouldn't say that. But if we look at what consumers are doing when commercials are being broadcasted, we can see this is asking what different kind of strategies do you have when a commercial comes on. 59% says, I do something else, leave the room, browse the internet, or something like that on the phone. Change the channels, another 46%. Record it with a TiVo and skip the channels or skip the commercial breaks. So there's a lot of strategies just to avoid commercials because they interrupt the content. So how do we get around this? Well, when we talk to consumers, it's mostly that they say, okay, I don't want to be interrupted. So of course, there's several ways to avoid interrupting the experience. And again, personalization. What we want to do is you want to create commercials non-intrusive. You want to allow the consumers to say, well, I can agree to this, or I can actually pay perhaps in order to avoid it. Create different options. If I'm watching something with friends, perhaps I don't want to be interrupted at all. And then I'm also more willing to pay for it, getting rid of the commercials. And also making them more relevant, tying back to personal information. For example, I'm an Iron Maiden fan, and if I would get advertising saying, you can buy 2 tickets to the Iron Maiden concert next week, I would start considering that borderline information instead of, diaper commercials because I don't have children. That's just junk. So of course, that's tools you get to work with. But then again, talking to one of the experts working with advertisements over YouTube, we still need to understand that the regular way of producing advertisements will be the bulk of the industry for quite a few years ahead. He's saying, selling very targeted TV ads is merely a technician's wet dream. Mass market TV ads will continue to be the bread and butter for the commercial TV industry also in the foreseeable future. So I think we'll go this way, but it will take us a few years. So trying to sum everything up, we more or less have 2 different universes. You have the old bundled universes with the pre-bundled market and with the sort of managed TV packages. 10 or 15 years ago, that was fine because that was everything you could watch. So you have everything in one package. And it provided this all-in-one experience. But the downside with it, there's no or little personalization. But on the other hand, cable, you didn't have to pay anything for the data cost, it was included. But then you have the new universe, sort of the OTT universe, where you can pick and mix precisely as you want. Perfect, since it provides full personalization. On the other hand, you end up searching in 56 different search engines in order to find one movie. And you pay 56 different companies in order to have all those things. So what you want is actually to aggregate this into one experience. And we're starting to see more and more sort of initiatives like this. Cable industries inviting players like Netflix to join their package in order to offer everything in their universe instead of pushing the consumers out to the other services and losing them. So I think this is the way forward. Also, I'd like to bring up one more thing. All this material is available online, and we're also publishing a new report today, ICT and the Future of Media. So if you want to dig deeper into sort of the distribution